I don't think anyone's ever ready to sort of be told that you can't have children or that you're going to have trouble conceiving. It never crossed my mind. Even honestly, after about 6 months or 7 months of trying, it really did not cross my mind to sort of come to terms with the fact that we're having trouble, we should get help, you know. That's actually one of the biggest steps, was for both spouses to come on the same page and be okay with saying the words, we have a problem. It was a very real thing for me that I came to terms with, that I may not have this, I may not have a formal baby shower, or this, I may not have my own natural children. It takes a really long time to be okay with that.
Sometimes people make the assumption that people don't have children because they don't want to have children. And I think if they just kind of change that assumption mentally, I think that may help, because that assumption is oftentimes not true.
You know, infertility is not a women's issue. It's actually a couple's issue. And so when we solely put this burden on the shoulder of the woman, I think that it's actually unjust. We are doing an injustice, because even the science will tell you that it is never solely the woman who has an issue. I think that every woman and every couple who's going through this, we have similarities, and yet each of our stories are so different.
We want people to know who we are, we want people to know our story, and we want people to that may be going through this to feel comfortable to come and talk to us, and we'd be happy to talk to them and share our story, and talk to them about what worked for us and what didn't, in case it may help them.
The stages of life. A person is born, grows up, gets married, and when the time is right, has children. For many, this is the way life is supposed to work out. But what if it doesn't? Meet Riaz and Aliya, a Canadian Muslim couple married for 10 years. Riaz and Aliya struggled with infertility for almost 6 years.
So we got married in 2009, and at that time I was in school still, so I think we were okay with waiting. We kind of felt like we didn't want children right away, so we thought, okay, we'll just wait at least until my school is over. So I think we waited about the full 2 years, right? Until I was graduated.
Yeah, I think we waited until you finished school, and then thought more seriously.
Yeah, and then I don't think we ever factored in that we would need time. So we just thought like, oh, we're ready, so it will happen. And then we started trying, I guess it was maybe 2012, and we tried for a while, at least like 4, 5, 6 months. And then we started realizing that, like, I think something's not right. I don't know. And people kept telling me that, you know, don't worry, just factor in, like, it takes about 6, 7 months. You should allow yourself that much time. Like, you know, it's fine. I don't know, when did you feel like we sort of needed to ask for help?
I think we were closer to the year mark, or even more, when we felt like it wasn't really happening, and we thought
we had tried all the stuff from the pharmacy. So for example, like, you get kits that tell you, for example, like timing and where you are in your cycle and that sort of thing. So I think we had tried everything that was in our control, and it still wasn't working. And anyways, I think we have a rule in Ontario that, you know, your family doctor, you have to at least be trying for a year before your family doctor can do anything about it or give you any sort of referral. So I think around the year mark is when I went to my family doctor, and I told her that, I don't know, we've been trying. So she gave me a referral to a clinic in Markham, and that's where we started. And it was the diagnostic tests are for both people, but it's a lot more, I think, poking and prodding for the women, because they do a lot of like testing and ultrasounds and blood work, and you have to go in for a lot of blood work. And so yeah, we did all the testing. And then I think once the results came out, it was kind of something that was called unexplained. So unexplained just means that everything on paper looks good. We don't know why this is happening. which is a really hard thing. I think all the diagnoses are hard, but unexplained is really hard because you have nothing to go by. There's nothing that you can potentially change. There's nothing that you can do differently because everything seems on paper like it should be happening.
In plain terms, infertility is the inability to become pregnant, to remain pregnant, or hold a pregnancy to a live birth. There are many factors that can cause infertility in both men and women.
From my experience, there are so many causes of infertility. A lot of them deal with the female reproductive system.
Some of the female factors that affect fertility in a woman are fibroids. Fibroids are abnormal growths that develop in the uterus. These tumors block the openings of the fallopian tubes into the uterus. Male factors include low sperm count and erectile dysfunction.
So nutrition is the food that we eat and our lifestyle and how we fuel our bodies. So the foods that we eat has a huge impact on our overall well-being. So when it comes to fertility, the foods that we eat has a huge role in it, specifically when it comes to our hormone health. We want our hormones to be functioning optimally for us to have, for women specifically, for ovulation. So when we look at our hormone health, one thing that we need to focus on is our diet. And unfortunately, a diet that's not a very good diet, a poor diet, can work against us. So our hormones may not be balanced, and this can interfere with ovulation.
So as a nutritionist and in the field of alternative medicine, we will assess a multitude of factors, starting with diet. So what are they eating? What goes into your mouth on a daily basis? What are you drinking? How often are you consuming X, Y, Z food? We're looking at what nutrients maybe are being enjoyed in excess and which ones you may be deficient in.
Nutrition can also have an impact on a couple's chances of having children.
Alternatively, we're looking at lifestyle, so stress is a huge component to infertility, looking at smoking, as well as chemical stressors, pesticides, any toxin buildup in the body, any other lifestyle factors that may be infringing on one's fertility.
There's no one cause or reason why someone who has infertility. It's a combination, right? So there's things that are out of our control, like genetics or certain diseases. Additionally, looking at our lifestyle, trying to make it as healthy as possible can also play a part. So for example, having a healthy diet, managing your stress levels, this is very important, getting enough sleep.
Many people believe that infertility is a female problem, right? Because a lot of it because the female is the carrier. But what isn't widely talked about is that 20% of cases is actually male related. And so 90% of those cases, of the 20%, is a result of low sperm health. And so whether it is the motility or the quality of the sperm. Research has shown that there are many foods and nutrients found in certain foods that will enhance fertility. As well, there are foods that will decrease the likelihood of fertility. Not because there's a direct link, but it's the effect on the body. So one optimizes one's health, whereas one creates an unhealthy body. And so looking at foods to eat are foods rich in phytonutrients. So we're looking at foods very high in vitamins and minerals, very alkalizing to the body rather than being inflammatory. And so what that means is eating a diet and having a plate full of very colorful fruits and vegetables, consuming a lot of quality fat and clean protein. And of course, all of this really is just about optimizing one's own nutrition and their own health. And in the long term, or in the short term for some people, it's really to improve their chances of having a very healthy conception and a very healthy sort of fertility journey, you can call it.
From the patients that I see, the clients that I see, a lot of them tend to be women. And a lot of them do, not a lot, but I mean, increasingly over the years, I have seen a trend with infertility being a common theme with a lot of the women that I see. Now, whether they have PCOS or endometriosis, which is another inflammatory response, which can result in having a difficult time getting pregnant. So just by working with their diet alone has been really, really helpful. So yes, I unfortunately it has been increasingly common over the years to see women kind of struggling with fertility and looking at their diet as a solution.
After Riaz and Aliya were informed that their fertility struggle was unexplained, they worked with a fertility clinic to begin the process for having a family. The fertility clinic suggested a round of a treatment called IUI.
Whatever they recommended it for us to do, we would do. Whatever little changes we could make in terms of whatever, sort of medication and that sort of thing that would help, or we did those things, but it still wasn't happening. And so, of course, this is a fertility clinic, and so the next step is to go through a round of treatment. And so they suggested to me that, look, on paper, we have no reason to believe you are not able to conceive. So we would suggest that you try something called an IUI. And so that's just the most basic form of, sort of the most basic form of fertility treatment. And so we did that, and it didn't work. And so when I say that, what I mean is, this is over the course of many, many months, right? And so you go through cycle monitoring. And cycle monitoring basically involves going super early to the clinic, so basically between the hours of 6 and 8, getting your blood monitored, but you're in line with other people. And so all these things are starting to sort of pile up, and they're becoming sort of added stress on your shoulders, because this first clinic especially that I went to, and every clinic is different, but the cycle monitoring at the first place was on a first come, first serve basis. So what that means is that you would have to line up outside their clinic door before 6 a.m. So there were many days in the morning, it was still dark outside, and I would leave after Fajr, and I would go, and I was never first in line, because all these women have to go to work after. And so you're standing in a line, and you wait for the clinic doors to open, and you're sort of shuttled in, and you take a number, and that's when I realized how common this is. Like, it is a really big issue, because there's so many women that are going through it. And I should say many couples that are going through it. And so, we go through that, but in the end, you do it because you have an end goal, right? And so you go through all these things, and you do the cycle monitoring, and we did the IUI, and it didn't work. And so we just thought, okay, let's try something else. They suggested that we try something called a medicated IUI, which was one step further, where now you have to start taking medication, you have to start doing injections, that sort of thing. And so it's a little bit more invasive in terms of the stuff that you're taking, the medication and that sort of thing. So we did 2 rounds there at that clinic, which was 1 IUI and 1 medicated IUI. And then, so this is over the course of probably, because by the time you get your diagnostics done, and then you go through a treatment, and then, so that's all cycles, right? So I would say at least 5-6 months we were probably at one place. And then we had sort of started hearing that, there was some friends of ours that had gone to a different clinic, and they had received good, they had good reviews, and they had achieved a pregnancy. And so we thought, what, maybe we should change clinics.
Riaz and Aliya learned about New Life Clinic, a fertility center based in Toronto and owned by Dr. Samuel Solimon. Dr. Solimon has helped several couples conceive healthy babies, and Riaz and Aliya were next.
Yes, infertility has a huge impact on people's lives, to the point that some people are completely consumed with it, and they can't do anything else. A lot of people lose their jobs over infertility. A lot of people even lose their marriage over infertility. Family tend to get involved and pressure the couple, or blame the wife, for example, that she's not able to have a child. And that's something people should be aware of, and be careful not to make it a destructive factor in their lives. So when it comes to causes of infertility, yes, we have to look at the couple, and at least 50% is male related and 50% is female related. And I know in some communities they tend to blame the woman for infertility always, and even to the point that the husband doesn't want to do semen analysis, refuses to do semen analysis, or they don't want to come for any testing, which can be a problem, of course. So that's, again, important information for couples that I tell them I can't get one of you pregnant. I have to have the two of you to help you to have a baby.
At New Life Fertility, Dr. Solimon and his team run a series of tests on both partners to learn more about where the infertility may lie. The couple are then given the opportunity to choose the treatment they wish to undergo. New Life offers IUI and IVF. IUI, or intrauterine insemination, involves placing the male sperm inside a woman's uterus to facilitate fertilization. The goal of IUI is to increase the number of sperm that reach the fallopian tubes in order to increase the chances of fertilization. In vitro fertilization, also known as IVF, is a process by which a woman's eggs are removed from her ovaries and fertilized in the lab with her partner's sperm. The resulting embryos are incubated in the lab and transferred back into the uterus 3 to 5 days later. After the 2 failed IUI attempts, Aliya and Riaz began their IVF journey at New Life Fertility with Dr. Solimon as their guide.
And so when we finished our first IVF, I think that was one of the hardest rounds for us, was because when we got the call after that first IVF, the nurse called after the pregnancy test. She called and said, "Congratulations, it looks like you have a pregnancy. The numbers are a little bit on the lower side, so just wanted to let you know. But again, congratulations, and come in 2 days, and we will check that the numbers are going up." So usually what happens is when you have one of these cycles, you go in for a pregnancy test blood work, and then you have to go in 2 days to make sure that your hormone levels are doubling. You want to see those HCG levels doubling. It was actually my mom, who's an ultrasound tech. When I told her the news, she was the one that told me that, "Aliya, those numbers don't sound very good. You should err on the side of caution." But for me, I think when you go through infertility, what you learn is to celebrate the little victories. And I mean the littlest victories, right? And so I was sort of optimistic, but I didn't know what that meant, right? So I did buy a onesie, and I did put it in a box, and I gave it to my husband, and I said, we got good news today, alhamdulillah. And then you go in after 2 days, and they say, "Sorry, the numbers have decreased. And so it doesn't look like it's going to be a pregnancy, but we want you to come in another 2 days to confirm that you are no longer pregnant. You're no longer holding that embryo." And I think for my husband, that was one of the hardest parts of the whole 5 years, was to get good news, or to sort of hear those words, right? "Congratulations, you're pregnant," and then to not be pregnant anymore. That is a huge pill to swallow. And that really hit home for me in terms of putting into perspective, how we don't talk about miscarriage. We don't talk about stillbirth. We sort of just brush them under as if those women didn't hold life inside of them.
Going through years of infertility is a struggle that is not easy, especially when the end goal is having a family. The struggle can be a truly isolating experience and cause feelings of depression. Mona El-Gohel conducted a study on Muslim women in the West struggling with infertility, and her study showed that religion could either protect a woman from experiencing depression and help her cope, or it could result in the exact opposite. A woman may either use religion to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or alternatively feel like God is punishing her since she cannot have a child. Is infertility a punishment from God for our sins?
It's definitely not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not, out of His mercy and rahmah, to punish someone by not giving them children. Because if you look at Islamic books, Islamic texts, you may not find anywhere where it says, if Allah hates His servant, He will take away that rahmah of taking away the children. It could be the other way around. Sometimes we see parents who cry because they have children and they say, oh, my children are giving me hard time. They don't listen to me. So when you compare between having children and not having children, not to have children is not punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never at all. Allah is Kareem, Rahim, full of mercy. He will not do such a thing.
You know, we have to keep in mind that as the Quran says, Al-Mal wal-Banun zinat hayat ad-dunya. You know, when we talk about the wealth and the children, these are all the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. And just as in the case of mal, not everybody is blessed with wealth. You know, some are given, some are not given. Similarly, when it comes to Banun, children, awlad, you know, this is how the system works. Some are blessed and some are not blessed. It doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with them. It is not in part of what we call basic rights, human rights, that, you know, they must have children. No. The system is such that sometimes, I would say in the most case, it has physical reasons behind why people don't have children, or they cannot successfully bring children to this dunya who are alive. It has more to do with the physical, you know, elements which impact on them, rather than saying that, you know, Allah wanted to deprive them. There was no issue of deprivation. It was more an issue of, you know, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes He blesses, sometimes He doesn't. And so it should not be taken as a judgment against them that Allah is angry with them or He's punishing them for a sin or something like that. If that is taken care of in the mentality of the people, I think things should be okay. Well, we have to realize that, you know, the fact that we come to this dunya not by our choice, it is His prerogative. And that also applies to the children. So just as we didn't have a choice whether we want to come to this dunya or not, this is Allah doing what He is supposed to do. And so the decision is finally His, where the blessings will be there, where the blessings would not be there. Those who are not being blessed are not going to be punished for it or questioned about it. You know, they would probably be blessed in a different way. It means you can see examples of people who have been deprived in one area, but, you know, blessed in another area. And so this is how dunya is, that sometimes Allah gives to some and doesn't give to others.
Aliya and Riaz had their moments, but tried to cope.
Yeah, so I don't know that I was ever, could say that I was depressed, but I did go through a lot of sadness. Like, there are times where you just feel so sad and you can't really explain it to anybody. Like, your spouse understands, but it's just sadness. But it's not just like one set of emotion, right? Like, you go through so many different emotions. So I also struggled with a lot of guilt. And even though in our case it was considered unexplained, so we can't really say that it was one person or another. And anyways, in a couple who's trying to have kids, it's a team effort, right? There's no one person, but and so for some reason there was a lot of guilt. Maybe as a woman, I don't know, that this is supposed to be something that I can have children. I should be able to, because as a woman, that's how we, in many cases, define womanhood, is equated to motherhood, right? And so when you don't have children, then where do you find your place as a woman? So there was a lot of guilt, and you feel a lot of isolation because, like Riaz said, your friends are sort of having children and everyone's sort of moving along. They're moving along in the path that is supposedly the way it's supposed to be. That's what we know, right? Like you go to school, you get married, you have children, and then you raise the children and you get old together. But of course, we realize that Allah has His own plan and He has His own timings. And so you go through a lot of emotions. For me, I think I was really, really lucky, alhamdulillah, that I found right around the maybe 2-year mark, I stumbled upon a new support group for Muslim women who were struggling with fertility, and it was called Amal Fertility. They were based out of sort of Mississauga, Milton, and they would meet once a month, and it was really a blessing to find them, and a blessing that they started this group. And so I would go once a month to this support group, and it was far from me, but I really always looked forward to it because you would sort of hang out with people who knew what you were going through. And some people had been trying for longer. Some people's issues were much more complicated than mine, right? And so it really helps to put things in perspective.
Went through lots of phases of extreme sadness, and I didn't have support groups like Aliya mentioned, nor did I seek support groups. My personality is more of kind of trying to internalize some of these things and look at ways of coping and dealing with it. I think the way that I thought about it was more that this is not something that's for granted. It's not something that is a given. It's a gift, and really further believing that everything happens for a reason, whether we have biological kids or we don't. There's a reason for that, and kind of coming to terms with that was what really helped me get through that process. But going through it was, there's lots of phases of sadness throughout, and isolation as you're seeing people around you having children, and the joy that they get from those experiences, and not being able to kind of have those same experiences yourself was very challenging.